Cecilia Stats is back for Hall of Trials, and this fight is designed around Witch of the Mirror Tenebria this time. That is an ML5, of course, and my thoughts on that I'll give in a little bit. She does happen to be the best in slot DPS for this fight, though not necessarily in the way Smallgate intended, I think. Calric is the second best DPS, and I'll do a run with him later, just for anybody who doesn't have Witch of the Mirror Tenebria. We can only have Witch of the Mirror Tenebria score this high because of a little trick we're going to do in the break phase, and without said thing, Calric would just be the best DPS. He outscores her because we can give him greater attack buff from Hazel, and you can see everybody down here is just running Calric. With the trick in mind, she does outscore, and you do need Baal and Sezan for this. Though, with his S3 debuffs not being 100%, it's not as bad as it seems, just because the odds of you clearing are still super high. You have 3 debuffs on his S3, but the boss is immune to Death Break, so it's only 2. 90% chance per debuff, 81% chance to land both, and you have to do this 3 times once per phase, so a 53% chance to clear. It's 1 and 2, not that bad. But this is just the best possible team. Thankfully, it doesn't take that long for you to actually get a successful run through. Now, as for the fight being designed around Witch of the Mirror Tenebria, they made it based on taking damage. Okay, honestly, the damage increase from Retribution when you get attacked while having stealth isn't really that high from what I've experienced. Just having stealth is way higher. That's why Calric, despite not really being able to reliably get Retribution, still out-damages Tenebria without the extra thing we're going to do. So this is really specific. That's why it's literally just Tenebria and Calric as mages who can grant themselves stealth. This is targeted harassment towards Infinite Horizon and Hades, but otherwise she would be insane here because she can just give people stealth. As for how much this matters, well, the last time this happened was the first time Hall of Trials was here on the revamp, which was also Rampaging Abyssal Euphine, but that was last World Cup. So I'm guessing this is just going to be a World Cup thing. This is probably going to happen with Genesis Frost 2, and it does kind of suck that they're basing it around ML5s, though honestly, top 5% has always been doable without the focus unit anyways, or whoever it was intended for, and majority of the time, it doesn't even work properly. This time it only worked because of something I don't even think SG had in mind. But it's just a difference of 1 EE roll between the top 100 and top 5%, so it's not that bad, though I still don't necessarily like them basing it around an ML5. But it'll probably be like this for the next rotation too, just because of the way stuff works. But anyways, let's look at everyone's stats. Alright, let's talk about actually replacements first. So this is, of course, a very specific thing. Baal and Sezan is the only unit that works here for this. But if you are playing it more casually, the alternatives are really just any mage that has debuffs on their S2. So you got Araminta here. She has 2 burns on her S3. I said any mage with their S2, just any mage with multiple debuffs. We want at least 2. Araminta's got 2 burns on her S2, and we also want AoEs for the break phase. Make sure you check what the boss is immune to, by the way, because she is immune to a bunch of things. We also have Dizzy, which is a collab unit, but she does uniquely have 3 debuffs on her S3, making her pretty good here for certain setups. Araminta is the one that most people will be using, but we are using Baal and Sezan here, who is also technically the free-to-play option, I guess, since he's available in the Episode 1 selector, just with slight debuff RNG on his S3 debuffs. And then for your frontline option, Cecilia is just going to be the best in slot because she has 2 debuffs on her S2, AoE S2 and AoE S3, so she's really, really good here. Pretty much happens every single time Euphine is here, she ends up being insane. There's not super good replacements for her. Charlotte is kind of a replacement because she has AoE S1 and AoE S3, so you're not going to have enough fighting spirit, honestly, to use her S3 or her 100% debuff chance on her S3, and even then it's only 1 debuff, so you're probably going to need Dizzy or to weave in your Soul Weaver S1 debuff chance for that. Other knights, I mean, Brieg has 1 debuff on his S3, but no AoEs. It's only 1 debuff because the boss is immune to Death Break, so Cecilia is honestly kind of hard to replace for this slot, but thankfully she's good for other PvE content anyway, so not a bad pickup. And then for our healer, I'm using Mascot Hazel, just because she can give everybody attack buff. Other replacements, it's really just any healer that gives attack buff and can heal enough. So Amelia works, you could put Amelia here. If you don't care about the attack buff part, Acades is the easy option. She just has a ton of healing, but no attack buff. And really you could use, there's a lot of healers you can use here. But let's put Mascot Hazel back in. And then for our DPS, which I mentioned, Witchdemir Tenebria is the best in slot. If you don't have her, then it's Cowrick. And then if you don't want to build him or don't have him, I recommend Grace of Growth. We'll take a look at it later, probably. But for now, we'll just say it's one of these two if you're trying to score super high. And now we can get into their stats, starting off with Cecilia. So, for Cecilia, her stats, I have her at 210 speed and then with a ton of bulk. This is honestly probably overkill on the bulk, if anything. I might try and drop her bulk a little bit lower and give her some damage stats just for squeezing out more damage. But the important thing is just the speed tuning. I have her at exactly 210 speed. For her artifact, I'm just giving her this to boost everybody's attack. Well, by everybody, I say everybody, but it's really just your DPS. And then for her EE, make sure you have the decreased speed on her S2, so she gets 2 debuffs on her S2 instead of 1. You need to Mola her S2 until you have +4 here, and then I highly recommend getting the -1 turn on her S3 as well. Next up, we can take a look at Mascot Hazel. For Mascot Hazel, I've got her on Warhorn. You can also use Queen's Whistle, so I'm going to just not be using Queen's Whistle ever in my guides because of the variable CR push and the lack of accessibility. I've got her at 239 speed, and then besides that, I gave her some attack just to increase her healing. This is kind of a minor thing, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. I guess I gotta talk about it now. It's just because my ball is kind of squishy, so I gave her more attack to increase her healing, since her healing scales based off of her attack. And then just give her a bit of bulk. You could skip the attack part if you're not having issues surviving. S3 and S2 maxed, and then for her skill tree, really it's just get the free stats, get the S2 healing, might as well get the S1 healing, and then these are usually really good, but they technically don't really matter for this specific fight. Unless you're using Cowrick, the attack is really nice if you're using Cowrick. Next up is Baal and Sezan. Baal and Sezan I also have at exactly 210 speed. You'll notice this is the exact same speed as Cecilia, which yes, there's going to be speed RNG, and I would just reset until you get the thing. It shouldn't take that long. Having Baal go before Cecilia is your ideal rotation. I gave him a bit of defense. This is a defense main ring, just because the way my tuning is set up, my healing just isn't enough. But you don't even need the damage on him. This is not a lot of extra damage. It's like a few 100,000 extra damage. But I just did this to get more damage. You could just give him a bunch of bulk if you're having issues surviving. And then his EE, make sure you have the one that increases his S3 debuff chances by 5%. I've also got an attack boosting artifact on him, another 5% here. And then make sure you have his S3 at +4, so you can maximize the debuff chance. Lastly, we have Witch of the Mirror Tenebria, who I did toss into Grace of Growth, and that's just because this way I have the damage enhances on her skills. But for her build, we're going Destruction plus crit set, and you only need 85 crit chance for this fight because Witch of the Mirror Tenebria is light, and Abyssal AYufi is dark, so you have elemental advantage. Basically, just max out her attack and crit damage with at least 85 crit chance. And then for her artifact, we will be using Cruel Mischief, increases our attack. And for her skill enhances, honestly, I don't think any of this matters. I'm pretty sure none of this matters. So, I put her in Grace of Growth just so I would have her S2 maxed out without having to actually enhance it. That's it for everybody's stats, and now you can take a look at the run. At the very start, there is a bit of CR RNG. We got a good RNG here. Basically, since our Baal and our Cecilia are the exact same speed, we want to make sure that Baal goes before Cecilia, and as long as that happens, we're good to go. We're gonna S1 first. This is a really minor damage boost that'll kick in later. Then we also have time for this to come back up, so we might as well use it. We're stalling Hazel's S3 by 1 turn so that we can have attack buff on Tenebria's first S2 in the break phase. We're gonna Cecilia S3 here because this will give us immunity, and not right now, but in the next turn we'll be able to block the burns from Yufine's S2. Cecilia does get stripped here, but we have to use S3 on that turn anyways because she's not going to get to move here. Then here we're going to finally S3. It's going to give us our attack buff. And S2 here. Now we are just waiting for this number to hit 0. We just barely make it into the 60% as well. Even if you're stuck at 65%, it's fine, honestly, just with the way this rotation works out. We're not going to S2 though, we're going to S1 for now. It's just because Baal won't get to move, so we're just going to push our debuff nullifier removal into the next turn. We're going to S1 here again. In S3 and we can pray. Okay, we only landed 1. I'm gonna reset here. I would say for people who are doing this a bit more casually, it actually doesn't really matter because Hazel's S1 has a 75% or maybe just 60% or lower depending on your skill tree and your enhances. But this does count as a debuff and this can bring you into the break phase. But I'm optimizing for damage, so I'm just going to reset real quick. So we're back here. Let's see if we land the 2 debuffs. Okay, so we got them both. Like, there is a 81% chance you land both there, so generally you're going to land it. And now we are in the break phase. We are going to S2 now, because we don't want to give attack buff yet. She already has attack buff, but even if she didn't, this first hit isn't doing too much damage just because she doesn't have stealth yet. So we're going to S2 here. Now we can give attack buff over. But here's the fun part. We're going to use Baal S1. And this is so we can desync the eggs. Because the eggs reset your cooldown and CR push when your backline unit is hit while they have stealth, but there's nothing that says this has to happen at the exact same time. So we're going to Cecilia S3 now. This is going to proc one of the eggs. Then it goes up, S2 is back, we are going to S2. And this is going to proc the other one. And now we get S2 again. And this basically gives us 4 full-powered S2s from Tenebria. We're going to refresh our attack buff here. That's 4 full-powered S2s from Tenebria in the break phase, and then 1 unpowered one. S2 is higher damage than S3, so we're going to use it here. And we're going to shoot out 2 more S2s to finish off the first break phase. And immediately Cecilia S3 here. This is also one of the reasons we need Cecilia to go after Baal, so that when the second phase starts, Cecilia can instantly S3. If you have Baal go first, Cecilia's S3 won't be up in time. Since the immunity buff is blocking all of the burns, we can stall Hazel S3 by 1 turn. Now again, we're pretty much just waiting for the debuff nullifier phase to start.
아가씨.
부르지마 멍청아. 제가 이길 겁니다. 함께 해주실 거죠? 보여줄까?
아가씨.
귀찮게 굴지 마.
Keep up, build it up, and we are going to S3. We hit the 81%. We are going to enter the break phase.
어쩌지?
That turn, whether or not Hazel goes is RNG, of course, but it doesn't really matter too much because we can just S2. So let's just double tap this, it'll auto-target Baal. One thing though is Tenebria's S3 is, or S2 is not up yet, so we're going to use S3 here. This S3 50% CR push lets her cut ahead of Baal and Cecilia, but it doesn't let her cut in front of Hazel, apparently. Or, not apparently, unfortunately. Which means that we do lose out on one attack buff, or one of the empowered S2 hits, which is just one thing that is missing from this run.
빨리 해치워봅시다. 가여워라.
And S2 here.
새로운 장난감이 좀.
아가씨.
부르지마 멍청아. 저는 지지 않아요. 파멸하거라. 많이
We
아프니?
can compare the damage. Let's see how much this one does.
좋아요.
559.
알려주고 싶네. 도망치기 늦었어요.
451. So about like 1.5 million damage loss or so. Unfortunate, but it's fine.
귀찮게 굴지 마.
And S2 again. Let's finish off the second break phase.
새로운 장난감이 좀. 많이 아프니? 비명을 질러도 좋아요. 어두운 건 싫어. 불이 되고 있어. 제가 이길 겁니다.
Third phase is going to be pretty much the exact same as the second one, to be honest. So there's not really anything for me to say here, but I'll see you guys at the end for anyone sticking around.
이런 건 싫어.
아가씨.
부르지마 멍청아.
연애 오래.
만지러. 제 앞에서 비키세요. 어쩌지? 난 이런 거 못하는데. 빨리 해치워봅시다. 가여워라.
아가씨.
귀찮게 굴지 마. 예? 제가 이길 겁니다. 누군가 도와주면 좋을 텐데. 자, 나도 할 수 있어. 함께 해주실 거죠?
아가씨.
부르지마 멍청아.
아가씨. 준비되셨나요? 같이 하는
저는 지지 않아요. 악을 분쇄할 힘을 올려주고 싶네. 비참했던 과거가 있나요? 그 시간을 가둬드리죠. 어쩌지? 난 이런 거 못하는데. 서둘러주세요. 많이 아프니? 급하답니다. 도망치기 늦었어요.
아가씨.
귀찮게 굴지 마. 심판의 시간입니다. 파멸하거라. 가여워라. 비명을 질러도 좋아요. 울려주고 싶네. 새로운 장난감이 됩니다. 도와주실래요? 빨리 해치워버립시다. 부르지마 멍청아. 추락해버리렴. 많이 아프니? 도망치기 늦었어요. 해주는 거 좋아요. 지금 기분이 어때?
That is it for the top 100 run for this rotation. Pretty simple fight, to be honest, but the Baal thing is pretty funny tech. Lusol was the first person who I saw mention it, and then some people have posted it in some of the other servers as well. It's just, yeah, we don't have to run both of the eggs at the same time, just with the way this fight works. I think last time we had LHC, we did kind of need all of the procs at the same time, and then Young Senya as well, or I guess it didn't really matter, but yeah, I think this is the first time we've had to actually do this, so pretty fun, despite it being a simple fight. Having Tenebria as the banner unit does kind of suck, but it is what it is. Top 5% should still be pretty trivial. Anyways, I'll see you guys for the next rotation. I am kind of curious what they'll run for it, because whether it's no dupe elements or no dupe classes, I think it'll be pretty funny either way.